welcome to the YWCA. My name is Lisa Smith. This is the first of the YWCA series of Enlightened Conversations. Enlightened Conversations brings together people from throughout our community to address issues of social injustice, discrimination, and racism. Through these conversations, we hope to learn more about each other and more about what we can do together to end these injustices. We want to give a special shout out and thank you this evening to Becky Conover, who brought us our guest tonight, who I will introduce in a second, and also to Lou Mart and Deb Smith, who will be manning the cameras and the laptops for your questions. And we ask you to please be a part of this. Please contribute your questions, your comments, so that you can be a part of the conversation. That's what helps it be enlightened, when we are all part of the conversation. Tonight's guest is Simmie Strausbaugh. Simmie is a York County resident who learned about discrimination personally early on in his life, when he was one of only 3 people of color in his elementary school in southern York County. After that, he went on to serve in the U.S. Air Force in Special Ops, and also had multiple tours to the Middle East. When he came back, he attended Millersville University and now works for the Social Security Administration, is back in York County, and is the father of 4. And Simmie's going to share with us some of his experiences. Welcome, Simmie.
Thank you.
We're glad to have you. You've been quiet from what we can tell from recent press. You've been pretty quiet about the discrimination that you experienced as a youngster up until recently. I think it was maybe May or June when we first started to hear your name in connection with some of the discussions about this. There was a Black Lives Matter rally in York, I think, when someone first got your name and information on record. What prompted you to get involved at that point?
It was a build-up of tragedy after tragedy after tragedy, and then just an inspiration of watching people in my community gather together and come together, people of all colors. And I just wanted to go there and be a part of that and feel it and just experience it and kind of take it all in, because it was the first time in my generation that I had been a part of something like that or ever seen that, because my generation failed to do that when I was young. Okay.
Right.
Now I'm seeing a lot of younger kids of another generation that are at these rallies, and it's inspiring, and I want to support them, as well as kind of do my own expression by just showing my support, just by being a face in the crowd.
Mm-hmm. Did you take your children with you to the rally?
No, I didn't. It was my first rally, and I wasn't sure what to expect.
Right.
Because you have people who are doing the right thing, and you have people that are doing the wrong thing, and
right.
I just didn't want to mix any of that up, because it's always going to happen no matter where you're at.
Right.
And I'm not condoning, or I'm not the guy who wants to burn the country down.
Right.
But, we also want to be heard. And,
Mm-hmm.
so that's why I was out there.
Right. How did you feel the rally went? Do you feel that people are getting the message through these various protests and rallies, or is the message falling on deaf ears?
I think that you have 2 types of people: those who don't want to hear anything,
mm-hmm.
and those who do. I think that the rally in the city of York was just that. I think it was more for the city. I really don't think anybody was paying that much attention to it, unless it became negative. Then they want to point the finger and say, oh, whatever. But we'll see how that. We'll see what happens from that rally, you know, because they're going to continue, and um, I have no faith that um, that was going to bring the change that we need. It was just more of a, okay, here we are, you know, tried in this community, and we'll be back.
Be back.
You know, even more than we are now.
Right.
You know? So I think it was just, you know, what's happening across the country is not it's not directly tied to your county, but at the same time, we're all American citizens, and you know, we all under the Constitution have the same rights, and we need to be treated the same way. And I think that's where it starts.
Right. Yeah. It is hard, I think, to have faith that things will improve, and to have confidence in that, and particularly, this week, you know, seeing the judgment yesterday on with the grand jury on Breonna Taylor. I found a clip just today from CBS News that said in the first 8 months this year, police killed at least one black man or woman every week in 2020, since January 1st to August 30th. So at least one every week. So, and we hear the rallies, we hear the say their name, but we can't even remember all of those names when you think of all of those. And none of them were given due process. We have no idea what any of them were accused of, because they never had the opportunity to have due process under the law. So it's understandable why the rallies and the protests sometimes get out of hand, I think. So the anger is that deep.
I can definitely understand.
Yeah.
Because I'm angry.
Yeah. How do you explain something like that to your children?
I've had to talk. So of course.
Talk, yes, yeah.
You know, I just had an incident about a month and a half ago with a person in uniform, and my son was with me, and I just couldn't believe what was happening. Basically, a basic basic civil liberties violation. Hey, what are you doing here? Where do you live? And the town I live in is so small that if you don't know who I am, then you're the outsider.
Right.
There's 10 people in the town I live in. Everybody knows everybody.
Right.
Why are you asking me where I live?
Exactly.
Why are you asking me, well, which house is it? It's uncalled for.
Right.
And there's nobody has the right to just stop you and just ask you what you're doing, and expect to get an answer just because they're wearing a uniform. That's just not good policy.
Right.
Okay. Why don't you help me? Why don't you say, hey, how you doing? This is who I am. I'm new here or whatever. Nice to meet you. Go about your business instead of assuming I'm out of place.
Right.
That's a profile.
Right. Right.
So I told my son after the incident was over, I said, you don't have to stop and talk to anybody. And if you feel that you have to, or you were told that you have to, you call me right away. You don't say a word. I don't care what happens. You do not say a word. You call me. Okay. Hey, maybe everybody has a conversation with their kid. I don't know. But, I can assure you that most people aren't worried about the things that I'm worried about.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Period.
Right.
I guarantee.
Yeah. I know you're right. I can remember when my children were teens having conversations about how to behave in public and how to behave in various situations, and none of them centered on that. It was always the police are your friends. Turn to them if you're in trouble.
Right.
And never did I think we'd be in a situation where I would have to question that.
Right.
And now I certainly would question it.
And you want to teach your kids, respect, and I do, okay, and zero assumptions. But, I think from a broad perspective, when we look at policing, especially people with dark skin, and we're asked to respect them and not assume that they're all bad, okay, great. But the problem is that you're looking at us and it's in the world bad.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's, you can't have it both ways.
Right.
I mean, well, it needs to be both ways, but they only want it one way.
Yeah.
It's a revolving door. It's a spinning, and I don't get it. I don't get the mentality, and I'm over it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I heard you mention once that when racism occurs, when discrimination occurs, both black and white people get hurt. And I think that with the police, that's one area where that really comes to play, because the police make assumptions about people of dark skin, and the folks who've been pulled aside and profiled may make assumptions about all police rather than just the one that they encountered. And so it's another example where another ism came in and
I want to be
created
careful.
problems.
I'm sorry, and I want to be careful because I don't see police as bad people.
No.
I don't see the police force and what it stands for as bad. What is bad is the institution in there that perverts what it's supposed to stand for,
Mm-hmm.
and that needs to be eradicated.
Mm-hmm.
That has to go, because I have I have a black friend. I have cops who are friends.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I don't. It's not that I hate cops, and that we hate cops. People of color hate cops. Is that we hate things that are happening within the departments that are just being swept under the rug.
Mm-hmm.
If Joe Schmo, who has white skin, is getting gunned down the street by a policeman and he walks free, guess what? I'm going to be downtown supporting that individual
Exactly.
as well. Okay,
Yeah.
but we need accountability, and we don't have it, and
Mm-hmm.
that's the issue, and people don't understand that why we are angry, why you're angry. It's
Mm-hmm.
because it's bad what already happened, but when they're walking free, that's the issue that we're having. If these cops, if these perpetrators, excuse me, not the cops, if these perpetrators of these crimes are being punished for what they're doing, I bet you it stops.
Yeah, I would think you might be right. I think so.
So.
You mentioned institutionalizing racism,
Mm-hmm.
in reference to the police activities, and it makes me think of when this all started. When we go back to 1619 and the first slave ship who came ashore, and we started this problem then. Not you, not me,
Right.
but my ancestors, started this issue then, and we have institutionalized racism from that point, 400 plus years of that. How do we start now to turn it around? What can we do?
There's 1,000 answers to that question.
I don't think we have time for 1,000, but give me a couple.
I definitely think that the curriculum in the schools
Mm-hmm.
needs to be factual.
Okay, yeah.
As that way, young kids who are learning about history are able to maybe develop their own empathy based off of facts that they learned in school about
Mm-hmm.
what really happened. It's when you're in school and you're learning about slavery, and you're the only black kid in there, and all I know is that my ancestors were slaves, and that was it. It's like, oh, well, what about our food? What about our religion?
Mm-hmm.
What about our language? What about
Right.
our culture? Like, I'm learning about Italian culture and the Spanish culture and the English culture and the German culture, but the African culture kind of just there's nothing there. Where's
Right.
And that's a problem. It makes it's a problem for everybody, not just for people of color. Because we're basically being lied to. It's like, well, we don't care about that.
Yeah.
Okay, but the reality is there was a culture in Africa
Mm-hmm.
when those people came over on the slave ships. They had a language.
Mm-hmm.
They had music. They had humor. They had religion. It was all wiped out.
Mm-hmm.
So that needs to be understood, and the contributions that they made as well needs to be understood as well.
Yeah.
We don't always have to glorify colonialism or imperialism. We know America is great, but let's tell the truth about it and make it greater.
Right.
Right?
Tell the good and the bad. Yeah.
We have, because that's history.
Mm-hmm.
History is what it is. You can't modify what it is.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, tell the story of the slave ships. Tell the story of the languages, the customs, the courtesies, all that. You know, like they're just as important. You
Mm-hmm.
know, as everything else.
And you know, perhaps maybe build into that the reasons. You know, if you can find a viable reason, I'm not sure that you can, but if you can find a viable reason for other than pure commerce as to why these people did this. You know, that's the only.
Well, imperialism.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I don't think there's really a reason. I don't know why I said that, but you know, I'm always looking for why. I'm the kid who, after
Yes.
everything is
Yes.
said and told, I'm still saying,
Right.
but why?
Right. Right.
You know, and
it is what it is. Just
yeah.
tell how it is. We don't need to, you know, glorify, you know, the colonies and all that, you know, when there's so much more to be learned.
Right.
You know, you have to broaden your horizons, and really teach
Mm-hmm.
the truth. And
Right.
so I think it definitely starts in the school.
Yeah.
Because at home, because racism, is taught at home.
Right.
Okay. Kids are not being allowed to feel differently than how their parents feel. They're told,
This is how we do it.
you know, and the empathy goes out the window.
Mm-hmm.
At least we can educate them in school. Maybe when they get into their adolescent years, they're able to think for themselves and say, "Yeah, that's not right.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't, you know." And what they did was incorrect. And now they're here in all these different places, in red line areas,
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, in major cities. And understanding how they got there is key to developing some empathy,
Mm-hmm.
and an understanding as to why they're there. You know,
Right.
as opposed to, oh well, you know, city people, blah blah blah. You know, well, how'd they get there?
Yeah.
You're talking about 4 or 5, 6 generations of poverty,
Mm-hmm.
with mental illness, childhood trauma.
Right.
All those things add up, and and that cycle of subconscious behavior, it's repetitive.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
And, you know, we can do better.
Right. Absolutely.
You know.
What grade level are your children in
I have
school?
a 6th grader and a 9th grader.
A 9th grader.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see from their social studies history books? Anything there that gives you any reason to think that we may have made some positive changes, or?
Well, I know for a fact it's the same, because I actually sat down with the superintendent a few weeks ago, talked to him, Scott Dice, his name.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible individual, very intelligent.
Great guy, yeah.
And we'll sit down again soon, but you know, he wants ideas, and before he can, you know, really suggest anything to the school board or
Mm-hmm.
anything of that nature, you know, we have to really come up with some great ideas. But as of now, the curriculum is still the same.
It's pretty much the same as it was, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a shame because things change rapidly, you know, that
Mhm.
we need to kind of keep up with the times there. What are your thoughts on reparations, Sam? Simmie?
So that's an ugly word for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I look at it, reparations like this. There was a pot of gold, okay, about 300 years ago that was here.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody went in there and got their gold out. All right. Now we're looking to go back and take what's left of that gold. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
Everything, you know, the networks, the land, the businesses, for the most part, it's already been taken. So a monetary payout to the descendants of slaves, you know, hey, great, I would love it, but it's not going to happen. It's not really going to it's not going to make any real change.
Mm-hmm.
Reparations would be probably better suited in funding those areas that need help, really funding them, specifically schools.
Right.
And not just in urban areas. I mean, I'm talking about rural areas as well, where there's even white kids.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's how you, in my opinion, you would give back. Because I just can't, you know, somebody gives me $100,000 for reparations, you know, I just, you know, what's that going to do?
Yeah.
The damage has already been done.
Right.
You know, I can't get any land. The land's already owned by everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, the businesses that maybe my great-great-grandfather helped build or worked there for free, it's already owned by somebody.
By somebody else,
You know, so it's really touchy, and it's never going to happen. And I just, it's never going to happen.
Yeah. Perhaps that's the wrong word. We may need to come up with a different word, because reparations does sound like payment for
Mm-hmm. Right.
damage that was done, kind of like your insurance company pays you when
Right.
for pain and suffering. And perhaps what we need to do is to look more toward how can we invest in the future,
Right.
so that we don't repeat these
Right.
mistakes.
Right. I agree with you, definitely.
And that
Mhm.
might be a better course for us to go. So um, how are you raising your children to be able to handle the multicultural world that we live in, knowing that racism hasn't gotten a whole lot better?
So it's different now than when I was young.
Okay.
Okay. There's a lot more diversity where I live. Okay.
Well, that's good. It's a start.
It definitely helps because now my boys have people they can rally around to protect them.
Okay.
As opposed to how it was, years ago when you couldn't really, there was nobody to rally around. It was,
But you were one of 3 kids of color in your school district,
well,
right?
there wasn't many. I mean,
Yeah.
there was, one,
Yeah.
it wasn't many.
Count
And
them on one hand. Yeah.
I could,
Yeah.
I could. And, so you can't, there's no, so if you have a bad apples in the school that want to intimidate and make trouble, well, you're on your own. There's no, you can't go to the 20 or 30 other people now that are going to relate to you and say, hey, I got a problem.
Yeah.
Even if you go to your white friends back in school days, they don't want to get involved.
Right. Right.
And the minute they don't, they're now a victim of racism as well.
Right.
Because now they have fear of repercussions.
Right.
They're a victim. So.
And they don't realize that it's not their problem when it truly is.
Yeah, because they just became a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't wake up in the morning and say I'm a black man and do whatever. I wake up in the morning, I'm just who I am,
Yeah.
and I go about my business. The only time I realize the color of my skin is when somebody points it out to me.
Yeah.
All right, and that's what I try to model that for my sons. We just don't play that game at all.
Good.
We're not. It's not taught in the house, and you're not going to tolerate that at all. And if it happens, I need to know right away.
Yeah.
Right away. Okay.
So you can help them deal with it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know that what they have to deal with is a lot different now than what it was then. But as they get older, I think it's going to become more of an issue, as opposed to, because the schools really do a great job so far of kind of quashing that down, at least from what I've seen. But as we get older, it's really, maybe somebody's having a bad day, but in general, I can tell if somebody, if my presence around somebody makes them want to throw up. I get it, and I just leave.
Yeah.
And that's where I think it's going to affect them more when they get older. Because their name, the way their hair looks, the way they walk, the way they carry themselves is not what is fitting to the eyes for certain people who think a certain way.
Oh, yeah.
And okay, great, fine, all right. You don't like how we walk, talk, or whatever, and dress is great, but the way you do things doesn't make you right either.
Yeah.
You do your thing, we do ours, and let's just, we're still Americans. Let's live.
Yeah.
So that's it. It's more of a lead by example.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good method. That's a good method.
And
yeah, absolutely.
It's not always perfect, but
None of us parents ever will be. None of us ever will be. So let me check and see. Do we have questions that need to be addressed?
We do not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Everybody's been very quiet. They're kind of all taking it in.
I have to be honest, that's how I feel. I'm like, wow.
Yeah. Have your experiences as an adult, Simmie, been different, I would hope, than the experiences as a child? I remember you telling a story in a prior interview of a lunch cafeteria tray getting upended on you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would doubt those things happen anymore.
No, because I mean, it was a bully situation. The kid
Right.
was older than I was anyway,
Right.
so physically there was no way. Now, as you go through those things as a child, I spend so much time in my life rehearsing responses and escape routes of how I'm going to deal with this. That now as a grown man, it's like, don't even try it. There's zero tolerance here, buddy.
Yeah.
Like, because I recognize things, and sometimes what I'm seeing isn't really happening, but it's the subconscious responses that I'm drawing up from protecting myself as a child.
Do you think you're giving off that vibe of don't try it here? And so that's why it's not, or
Probably.
yeah,
Probably.
rather than people are getting better, unfortunately.
Probably.
Probably.
But
yeah.
I mean, it's again, it's subconscious survival things.
Right. Yeah.
It's like beating the dog on chained to the chain over and over and over. Well, that dog,
and it's what you had to do to survive.
It's
Yeah.
It's what I had to do to protect myself from a whole slew of things.
Yeah.
Verbal danger, physical danger, academics, social, the whole gauntlet is, you spend so much time just rehearsing that it doesn't leave time for other things like studying, and whatever kids do.
The general
you're not really a kid, because you're living in fear.
Right. You're always on the edge.
And it's real. It's real. It's real. And I lived it, and it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But it has also shaped the individual that you see here to be something that maybe I wouldn't have been if things would have been normal, like the guy across the street.
Yeah, that's a very positive outlook. I mean, really, that's because some people could have gotten very sour and
I'm sour
and negative. Well, you don't come across that way. You come across as a very positive person. So I'm curious, were there times in your life where situations where the acceptance level was higher, like at college or in the Air Force? Did you feel more accepted, or that you didn't stand out as much, that you felt like more of the gang, like I'm a part of the gang there?
Yeah, I mean, it took a while. I mean, it was, nobody gave nobody cared who I was in elementary school.
Yeah.
Nobody cared who I was in junior high. It's just, for the most part, that's, whatever. But, when you get a reputation for, maybe you're excelling in something that people are like whatever the case may be, like basketball, football, whatever, you're excelling, then all of a sudden, oh, well, now it's a different story. Now you're accepted because you're entertaining somebody, you're making somebody happy.
Yeah.
And
athletes always seem to have a step up.
Yeah, and it's hard to deal with because it happens overnight, and it happened to me. Overnight, boom. It's some things happened in my athletic career, and I went from whatever to everybody knows you, and now you're expected to be this perfect individual when you just pick up your pieces from being beat down by the school district itself, and the kids that go in there. So there's definitely, without athletics, I'd be nobody would really care, and I probably wouldn't be sitting here right now, to be honest with you. That's the truth. So it definitely does make a difference. I think one of the things I said in the story was, when under the lights at Friday night during football season, everything's great, and then when the game's over, you go back to normal. You go back to your reality, and that is, I'm not the same place everybody else is. I don't have, and I can't go to this house, or I can't go to that house, and I can't date this person. I can't. So you kind of get excluded
Yeah.
from the entire field just because of the color of your skin.
Right.
And it's fine. It is what it is.
Yeah.
I got through it, but it's not right. And I wasn't the only person that suffered from that.
Mhm.
Everybody did.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
They were good enough to entertain us on the football field, or basketball, or whatever the sport is at the time. But yeah, we hear that now, even from professional players. You know,
That's
you
right.
know,
That's right.
and I mean, what was it last year? There was a sportscaster who when some of the football or the basketball players were taking a political stand, told them to just shut up and play basketball.
Right.
You know?
I saw that. I saw it. Your basketball.
Yeah. And it was, like, I'm sorry, these are more than your entertainment. These folks are real folks with real opinions, and, we need to listen to them.
And on the flip side of that, the person who said that also has a following that says the same thing.
Yeah, shut
That's
up and say the
important
news.
to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's, where do we, how do we bridge the gap from what's right and what's, morally right to just an ideology, which is what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
When people talk about that subject there, it's all an ideology. It's not a reality. It's an ideology, almost like a cult. It doesn't do anything for everybody. It only does. It makes certain people happy that want to stay, status quo.
Yeah.
This is how it's going to be. Deal with it. Shut up. Unless you're playing basketball or baseball or football or you're entertaining us in some way, shape, or form, just be quiet.
Yeah.
Okay. Everything else we'll handle. That's dysfunctional.
Yeah.
And there's no point in even arguing with people like that anymore. You just kind of walk away. You believe what you believe. It's great. Okay. It's not right, and it's not going to make us as a people or a country better. But you can't do anything about it. But educate them early on. And hope they get it.
Have you found any particular tools, books, movies, anything like that you think are particularly helpful in educating people?
So there are two books. One of the books is called Guns, Germs, and Steel.
Guns, Germs, and Steel.
Yeah, and that book's important because I wanted a deeper understanding of how we all got here.
Okay.
Right here where we're at now.
Okay.
And that book really illustrates a logical, factual path to how we got to here right now.
Okay.
And the other book is it's called White Fragility.
I have that one. I'm working my way through that one now.
It doesn't mean white people are fragile.
No.
That's not what it means.
Nope.
It just read the book.
It is an interesting read, though,
Just read
because
it.
I find myself reading a couple of paragraphs, and I have to stop and think about it because it'll hit a nerve and say, "Oh, yeah, Lisa, you do that. Yeah, that's not good." And then I got to go away and think about it a few days and come back, and after I've reckoned with it, and it's like, "Yep, they're right. And then I read a little bit more. Yeah, that's one you study.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, that is.
Because not everybody's going to do that.
And
you have to think. You have to think, and we have to stop looking at each other as, Asian and African American and Puerto Rican and white. And, we have to get away from all that, and we have to be a whole.
Just be people.
Just be people.
Yeah.
And the fear and the hate and all that. It's just I just don't get it. And there's just no. The people who perpetuate those ideas are no better than somebody who's going to be downtown rioting and looting while people are protesting.
Right. Yeah. Well, and those divisions between folks seems to have gotten larger. The divides seem to be bigger over the last couple of years.
Excuse me for saying this, but in some cases it seems like it's cool to be bigoted again.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It's
And-
been blessed
okay.
from above, from a
So,
governmental standpoint.
It is what it is, and you have to call
yeah.
it how you see it, and,
Mhm.
and it's obvious.
There is permission
You
to
know.
be a bigot in today's world, unfortunately.
Cool.
Are you hopeful for the future? For the future that your children will inherit? Do you see it being greatly different than your adult life? Sorry, I didn't mean to hit you with
Yeah.
a real tough one. So.
Because I don't want to spread like negative vibes, but right now, in this current climate we are in right now, I have zero hope.
Yeah.
Zero.
Let's talk again in a couple of months. Maybe it'll look a little better.
That's a start.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a start.
Let's hope, yeah.
But I just, and I don't want to say I've given up, but I have in a certain capacity. I'm not, there's so many things on social media and the newspaper and people just spewing out so much ignorance, and I just want to go in and say, hey, and then I catch myself. Why are you talking to that person?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you engaging with that person? Because they are the issue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you're going to go on social media or any platform and you're going to talk, okay, well, let's talk. Don't just come out and just start throwing haymakers and just start, oh, well, you're a wimp, or you're soft, or libtard and Marxist and socialism, communism. And it's like, if I asked you what that was right now, you wouldn't even be able to tell me.
Yeah.
So why am I arguing with you?
Right.
Because I used to do it a lot. What is communism? Tell me what communism is. Well, exactly. You don't even know.
Right.
Like, so.
But it's a word that makes an impact if they yell it loud enough. Yeah.
Socialism. And, it's a. I got into an argument, and I shouldn't have, with somebody about politics.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And this person is poor. This person gets food stamps, and this person is diehard red.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I'm trying to make him understand that, the service that you're getting through public welfare is a social service,
mm-hmm.
and you vote against that. Oh no! Yeah. Okay, good. All right. Well, enjoy yourself, and have a nice life.
Yeah.
Things like that. It blows my mind.
Mm-hmm.
When you can't understand that you're voting against your best interest.
Yeah.
I don't get that, and that's something that the school districts and the curriculum have to fix.
Yeah.
Period.
Right.
Because I just don't. I feel like there's zero excuse for that.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason for an adult to not understand what benefits them and what doesn't benefit them. Well, it's socialism. Okay. Well, what is socialism? Well, exactly. You don't
mm-hmm.
know.
Yeah. Right.
You're getting a social service. You vote against it, and you're still getting a social service, but you don't know. You don't know.
You don't know what.
There's just. We have to educate ourselves,
mm-hmm.
And we have to be willing to understand the facts and what helps us individually instead of the ideology of, well, I'm in this group and I'm cool, or I'm in this group and I feel good and we can rah, rah, rah. Okay.
Yeah, but what does it mean to be in that group?
It's just an ideology.
Yeah.
If you don't have a logical reason that benefits your situation, then what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm surely not going to vote against my own best interest, when it matters in the polls. Why would I do that?
Right.
I mean, only a fool would do that, right? Just saying.
That kind of leads us into our first question, Lisa.
Okay.
What do you think would help in what we teach our children in helping eliminating racism? So, what kind of things should we be doing, I guess, in the schools to help stop racism?
Good question. Zero tolerance. Zero tolerance.
Yeah.
They need to treat racism like bullying. They need to treat racism like you're carrying a gun to school,
mm-hmm.
like you have cigarettes or tobacco in your locker. That's where it's going to start. Okay. just like the shootings, okay? You want to stop, you start arresting the people who are doing it, okay? It will stop.
Yeah.
I guarantee it. Zero tolerance policy at your school, all right? Zero.
Yeah, and so often, I 20 years in public education, so often it's excused or not necessarily excused, but it's looked past or softened by, well, they didn't understand what they were doing, or they,
Right.
it was, no, they understood,
Right, and I think the administration that does that, they do it out of fear.
Yeah.
And guess
Yeah.
what? They're now a victim of racism.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
From my perspective.
Yeah.
You know.
And you're right, and that goes back to your point that both those who observe and those who engage are victims of the racist act. Yeah. We all get caught up in it. We just don't realize the damage that we're causing each other when we do that.
Heck, I had my own biases that were reinforced and perpetuated by the show Cops.
Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I used to watch it all the time. Every time I turn around, I see a black face getting arrested. Okay, well, come on.
Would you look in the mirror?
Come on.
Yeah.
It's like, so now I get this visualization that people with brown skin are bad because all I see is them being arrested on.
But then you
on
look
Cops.
in the mirror. How do you reckon that? I mean, because you're not a bad. You're not a bad person.
So I have to actively engage myself. So I'm walking down wherever I'm at. I see a person of color. I can't. Oh, where's my keys? Let me lock my doors. Like, that's a subconscious behavior that's taught on TV.
Yeah, I can see
whether
that.
it's a TV show or even movies.
Yeah.
A good example is when I was in eighth grade, a movie came out with Hulk Hogan and the guy from Friday who played the bully. It's called No Holds Barred. And of course, Hulk Hogan was the blonde-haired, blue-eyed hero, and then of course the villain was this menacing, imposing black man. I'm thinking, damn, like people are really going to believe that's how we act. And I'm in eighth grade thinking this. I don't want people thinking that because that's not how it is. But that's an example of how whether Hollywood was innocent with what they were doing or not is irrelevant. What it perpetuated was a menacing, imposing black man as the villain, and the hero, once again, as the large, imposing, good-looking, blonde-haired white man.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Made the difference. Yeah.
It struck a chord with me, and I guarantee you it had an impact on young junior high kids, elementary
At
school
that
kids.
time,
I guarantee it did.
Well, and I know that those biases sometimes come up for unknown reasons. Shortly after 9/11, my husband and I had an opportunity to go to Niagara Falls, and we went to one of the attractions there where you go down an elevator and you can walk out underneath the falls. Well, I'm struggling to put this plastic poncho on that they give you, and I'm getting stuck in it. So a part of my face is covered, so I'm kind of freaking out about that. And when the elevator door opens, here are two men in turbans.
Okay.
Now, I have no idea what nationality they were. All I knew was they had turbans on. And somehow in my mind, I'm thinking, oh my God, it's 9/11 people.
Right.
I didn't even know, I couldn't even think of a name.
Right.
And I totally freaked out,
Right.
and he had to take me upstairs and out, and, because I was having a panic attack.
And that's subconscious.
And it was. All I knew was that some folks who took down those towers were from the Middle East. There are some groups of people in the Middle East who wear turbans. I made that connection in my head for some dumb reason, wrapped up in this plastic over my face. And, but like you said, it's unconscious. And when I rationalized it later and sat down and thought about it, I thought, you fool.
Right.
But
well, I want to make you feel really bad now.
Oh, great.
The turbans on the head, those are actually Sikhs, and they're not even from the Middle East.
Oh, great.
They're not even Muslim, you know. So, and I always get a kick out of people, towel hairs, this and that, and I'm like,
Well, that's right. You served in the Middle
they're
East,
not
so you would
even,
know.
they're not even
Yeah.
Muslim.
Yeah.
And so, it's people just jumping the gun, and they want somebody to hate, and they want somebody to, in that perspective, not in yours, but where what we see, okay, is what we fear.
Yeah.
So, all we saw was, these what appears to be Southwest Asian,
different
descent,
Mm-hmm.
9/11 towers, blah blah blah.
Panic. Yeah.
Panic, fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with fear, you can control the masses.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they're doing now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been proven to be effective the last 3.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have another call?
We have another question, yes. Simmie has mentioned several times the word protection and how he had to protect himself and that his children have protection.
Mm-hmm.
I do not want to assume, but what specifically did he fear in the behavior of others that he needed protection from?
So when I try to protect myself, what I mean is if it's third period and I know this certain person's going to be coming down the hall, I got to find another route. If it's fifth period, I know this person's coming down the hall, I got to find another route. Okay, if I do run into this guy in this hallway or whatever, then what do I do? Okay, well, here's an escape route. Okay, all else fails, now we're fighting. Okay, and you have to do that all over the place.
So it's strategic planning.
Absolutely. And it doesn't just happen in school. It could happen anywhere. I could be at a fair and park somewhere, and the guy next to me's got a rebel flag. Okay, well,
I think I'd move the car.
well, what are my options here?
Right.
All right, am I going to ignore this guy? Is this guy going to say something, or do I move my car? Well, I move my car. Well, now I'm spending another 30 minutes trying to find another parking spot.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm moving to prevent something that's not fair to me. Right, I just missed a half hour of the fair, or I'm late to class because I'm rerouting somewhere, or maybe I needed to use the bathroom before I went to class, and the bathroom's right here, and I got to go the whole way around. Now I can't go to the bathroom. I'm in class. I got to use the bathroom,
and you can't focus.
I can't focus.
Yeah.
I could go on,
Right.
on and on.
Yeah.
Or just as a follow-up from me, are these the strategies that you talk to your kids about?
No.
Okay.
These strategies are when they're going to have to learn how to survive. Okay, I cannot hold their hand all the time. So when they have an issue and they bring it to my attention, I make a judgment call. Okay, this is how we're going to handle it, or I can say, get out of here. You figure it out. Okay, you have to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But I guarantee they're not avoiding people in the hallway like I was, because
Right.
I also had a lot to lose. Like I couldn't, because I was in sports and that was all I had. I wasn't in the position where I could be knocking people out every time I turned around. I had to de-escalate and evade and run all the time,
Right.
just to keep myself from getting in trouble for fighting and then let my team down.
Yeah.
So, it was challenging, but you figure it out. Now, again, that's not how it should be. Kids shouldn't have to do that. Kids should be able to go to school and just go to school and do the same things everybody else can do.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't do that. You can't always do that, depending on the demographics of your school
Mm-hmm.
and all those things.
Right.
You just
Right.
can't do that. Maybe in a maybe in a school that's more diverse, no issues.
Yeah.
But where I was at, no go. So,
Mm-hmm.
if you go to a school where you are the minority, the major minority, you're gonna have to deal with that. I guarantee it, without question. And those behaviors, those practices, and strategies to keep yourself out of trouble, keep yourself safe, I didn't invent them. That's just an instinctive survivor skill that I had to pick up. And it takes away from so many other things about being a kid. It is what it is.
Okay. We have another question here about 10 more minutes. I have a question that has always burned me up. I was born in the ghetto in Baltimore, and till this day, people assume I'm black. I don't understand why anyone would think that. Without upsetting anyone, why would anyone say or think that?
I don't think I understand the question.
I think the question is that when someone relates that they were born somewhere specific, that there's an assumption about who they are. And that's what burns me. This person is a white person.
Okay, so this person, I assume, carries themselves the way an inner city person would do that, okay? No different than how you would carry yourself if you're out in the middle of Kansas. There's always a way to carry yourself because of your community. That doesn't mean you're black, okay? And I think I understand where you're coming from. I always hated hearing in high school, well, Simmie, you don't act black.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? Because if you're referring to what you see on television as acting black, well then that's a stereotype and that's not a reality, okay? If you want to see what black is, come see me in the summertime. I'll take you down to Pine Grove Picnic in Maryland, okay, and I'll show you what black is as opposed to what you see on TV. So, you know, anytime if they're calling that person black because they're from the ghetto or black, I think it has to do with their behavior, and that's not a black behavior. That's a circumstantial behavior. It has nothing to do with skin, okay? Unbelievable.
It's interesting the way people identify, because I've heard people say, "Well, they didn't sound black on the phone."
Oh,
it's like,
man.
what does that? What what does?
Happened
what
to
does
me at work
black
today on the
sound like?
phone.
Yeah.
Oh my! Yeah, I don't
I
know
didn't
what that
realize
means.
color had a sound, you know. So
Yeah.
you know, it just amazes me.
It's
amazes
deep.
me.
I mean, it's deep. It's
Yeah.
deep. You know, this is there's so many microcosms of racism.
Yeah.
There's so many, 50 states, thousands of counties,
Yeah.
and everybody is different and
And everybody has come from somewhere else, you know.
yeah.
At this point in my life, I care when I pick up the phone that you can understand me and I can understand you. And other than that, I don't really care, you know, as long as we can get through, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've heard that comment before too, and it does come from stereotypes. You
Absolutely.
know?
Perpetuated by television.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Period.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, the age the age when you would have been in high school was all that Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and
Right.
all that kind of stuff, and
Right.
Straight Outta Compton kind of groups, and music groups and stuff. So that would have been the stereotype that kids around here would have been picking up because they didn't have as
Right.
much exposure
Right.
to other black kids.
And
What the exposure they had was inside that little tube.
And it's amazing how you can watch the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and say, well, that's not real for black people. But you can watch NWA and say, oh, yeah, that's how they act.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Because it's negative.
Yeah.
And anything negative is going to stick.
Oh yeah.
As opposed to, even the Cosby Show.
Mm-hmm.
It does happen. It's difficult, and it's a lot more challenging for the black family, only because we don't have the networks unless we are exposed to them by somebody who is going to say, here, let me show you how to do this.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's a fact. You can't dispute that. In general, when you talk about Detroit, Chicago, New York, whatever, any major city in the United States where you have the redlined areas where they funnel in people of color, this is where you're going to live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're not getting a house, a home loan. We're not going to hire you
unless you're in there.
You're here, boom, and you're talking 6-7 generations now.
Yeah.
What do you expect?
Yeah.
And you want to focus on that part of it, and for what? To entertain, and perpetuate further segregation. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And it's sickening.
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right. How about give us your best advice for reaching those who have such hatred in their hearts? It's a
Well,
tough
we're
one.
throwing some tough questions
You-
at you, Simmie.
You know, you're better off. I stay away from those people. You can't do anything with that. You can prove it wrong and hope they have enough um, integrity to recognize it. But man, and I don't want to call. It takes a certain amount of intelligence to really just break things down and use reason and use logic and call it what it is. And to hate is actually a difficult thing to do. It takes labor, it takes thought, it takes time. You spend all your time doing that when you could be doing something else to make your own life better. You know, I stay away from people like that. You know, it seems like it's a mental illness that is undiagnosed, maybe from childhood trauma, whatever. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist, but some people you just can't reach, and some people are not worth your time, and you have to. Hate's always going to be around, and you can't do anything about it, but stay as far away from it as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I think the key is to get it early, get to the kids early. You know, a 45-year-old man who is, you know, has his way about him, it's going to stay that way. It's not going to change. So all you can do is hope to get the kids early, but you know, some people are too far gone. That's my perspective.
Okay.
It makes sense because you know, even with the elections coming up, one of the many times I've heard advice on trying to sway voters one way or another is like, don't go after the voters who you know are opposed to what you want like them to do. Go after the ones who are not convinced. You know, because you'll never dissuade the ones who are firm in the opposite stance. So, you know, it's you don't waste the energy there. So, you know.
Yeah, it seems to be, again. I see your point. It seems like it's an ideology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think we are. It's amazing to me how this country, with so much money, so much resources, can be so lost.
Yes. Yeah.
And misguided.
Yeah.
And I just, you know, I have let it. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to sit back because now I'm at the point now where I want to see where we are as a country.
Yeah.
Okay. And if this is where we are, I'll adjust. If this is where we are, I'm going to adjust to that as well. But I'm not going to be part of that.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you're part of that,
yeah,
you know, and I can't believe I'm saying that, but you know,
well, sometimes
I gotta
when
protect
things
myself.
like that happen, we find our worlds shrink. You know, the folks that we interact with and the folks
Mhm.
that we feel connected to become a little tighter, and you know, become a smaller group because those who are not part of that fold no longer fit in our scheme of life.
Weird,
You
'cause
know,
I was kind of looking at it the other way. I feel like I have been opened up now
yeah,
because now I can see the filth. Okay,
Ah.
and I'm not saying that
yeah, that's
everybody
true.
who walks in there and votes an elephant is filth.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying there's an ideology within that group
Mm-hmm.
that I can't figure out. I can't comprehend.
Yeah.
And I don't see how it does good for anybody, and nobody has been able to explain it to me yet. So if I can remove that, then my world just expanded.
Yeah.
Even
That's
more,
true.
you know,
Yeah, I see what you mean.
They don't need me. I don't need them. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
You know, it is what it is.
Absolutely.
There's just a comment here.
Okay.
Maybe we can wrap up after this. It's almost 8. Thank you, everybody. We can't always change others' hearts with our positive, loving hearts and actions. Sometimes we keep showing up in positive, open hearts so that those others don't change us.
Oh, what a great thought. What a great thought.
So to live your life the best way possible and with a positive attitude.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And love.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to change others, just continue to be the example.
Yeah.
And maybe they will,
Yeah.
maybe they will follow, maybe not, but at least you won't get sucked down that dark path. So, well, Simmie, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
I really appreciated this tonight. And for those of you who are watching on Facebook, please come back and join us. We will be here again on Wednesday, October 21st at 7 p.m. Our guest will be Joanne Carroll. She is the Executive Director of the Trans Advocacy Pennsylvania and the Commissioner for the Pennsylvania Commission on LGBTQ Affairs. So that is Wednesday, October 21st, 7 p.m. Joanne Carroll. And Lou tells us that this will be recorded and posted on Facebook, on the YW's page, and most likely on the YouTube as well. So if you tuned in late or missed anything, you can catch it again. So thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.